Yes, welcome into Sports Bit. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Huge show coming up, weekend preview edition. College football semifinals, 2 bowl games we'll get to Monday morning, and then NFL Week 17. Division on the line Sunday night, Green Bay and Detroit. We'll also get to the Giants and the Redskins. Redskins win, they're in, assuming Sunday night doesn't result in a tie. Play of the day, let's stay hot with that. Big show coming up. Oh no, Teddy. Oh no, the Outback Bowl again. Oh, before the last 10 seasons, teams were 3-902 when they trailed by 24 points at the half. If you laid 7 or 7.5 with Virginia Tech, well, Christmas came late, Christmas came early, whatever. I mean, that is a horrific beat. And the Outback Bowl again, Arkansas 24-0 at the half, they lose.
And of course, the irony is that we've been talking about the Belk Bowl as being the bad beat bowl because of the history. And here, this is the worst beat of bowl season so far. Really, it's not even close. I mean, I'm thinking maybe Texas San Antonio's backdoor against New Mexico. No, that had nothing on this comeback. Arkansas trailing by margin, or leading by margin, and then the second half, what do they go? Fumble, punt, interception, punt, interception, punt. They had 3 turnovers the first 11 plays of the second half, and of course, they were playing without their tight end, Jeremy Sprinkle, a guy who's likely to be playing in the NFL next year. Pauly, why was he missing?
Oh, my God. McShay has him as a 6th-ranked tight end. The Belk is a department store there, and each player got a $450 gift card. He stole stuff anyways. He grabbed 2 polo shirts. He grabbed some Nike socks and 2 wallets. They said what he took was more than $450. They arrested him Tuesday night, suspended him. What is this guy doing?
Oh, that's brutal. You know, when they give you a gift card, just go to the store and use the gift card. Don't hurt your team like that. But, yeah, the worst beat-up bowl season. And, of course, it came in the freaking Belk Bowl. Congrats to those of you who had the Hokies. As you mentioned, Christmas came late, whatever. It was Christmas. And now what do we got? We got some crazy stats with bowl teams. And then the big chalk, Pauly. What do you got for us?
Well, we got the Dogs are now 18-7 against the spread in the bowls, crushing it.
So that's all Dogs, 18-7 against the number.
And
if you're
yes,
just blindly betting Dogs, you're hitting what? Like, it's a better, like 70%?
And as we touched on earlier in the week, South Florida won. Well, we'll get to this in a second. But South Florida win in overtime, but they didn't cover. Teams laying more than 7.5 in the bowls are now 1-10 ATS.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you're supposed to be able to make money with.
Yep, and bad bets. How about the under in that South Florida, South Carolina game, which was bet down from 62.5 to 58.5. Wind was blowing. Didn't matter. They were going up and down the field.
Yeah, both teams were going up and down the field in that one, and a ton of big plays. And it was South Florida who was making the big plays. You know, they cheap touchdown right before halftime. I mean, the under money was wrong. The South Carolina money right before kickoff was right. I mean, they give up the BS touchdown right before halftime. Bentley threw a pick 6. The Gamecocks fumbled twice, not once, twice at the Bulls' 1-yard line, and they also got stuffed on 4th down from the 12. They finished -3 in turnovers, 5 turnovers overall. Oh, they still covered the point spread. Yeah, South Carolina got the money, although not without taking years off of Gamecocks backers' lives watching that football game.
Yeah, a rocking chair game for us. We had Oklahoma State plus the points, never in doubt. We wondered about Jim Leavitt leaving, the defensive coordinator, to go to Oregon. They couldn't stop a nosebleed in that one. Lufau got hurt again, although he came back in, their quarterback, and that was a bad bet. Colorado favored in that one.
Yeah, I mean, the Buffs were chalk. That's all you need to know about right sides and wrong sides of that contest. And yet another bowl favorite goes down in straight-up fashion.
What happened to the Raptors? Lost at Phoenix.
Yeah, they look completely gassed. You know, I remember they were down 25 after 1 against the Warriors on Wednesday. And they rallied back to make that a game. It was actually probably something we should have used on yesterday's show as a bad beat. Yeah. They were right in that until the final minute, and then Golden State hit all their free throws and, ended up winning by 10 down the stretch. But Toronto, I mean, it was an absolute no-show. They were gassed. They had nothing left in the tank, lost wire to wire at Phoenix. They were 8.5-point chalk in that game.
What happened in the Celtic game? They were down big. I look up, it's a 1-point game.
Boston's a resilient team, man.
Sure.
I mean, they were down 20 in the second half. They were down 17 in the fourth quarter. Next thing you know, as you mentioned, 1-point game in the final 2 minutes. In the final minute, it was a 2-point game. They ended up losing by 6, and this was a bad result for the house. You know, Boston, they were down by 2. There was 8 seconds left. They missed a shot. They had just enough time to foul twice. And the Cavs hit 4 of 4 from the free throw line down the stretch. And of course, Boston, they were 5.5, 6.5 point dogs all day. The line bounced around 6. Just about every bet that books took on that game either won or pushed. Celtics come through the back door. It's kind of a bad beat. Definitely a bad beat if you had the Cavs side.
Yeah, bad for the books. The Jazz, who were bet up from 11.5 to 14.5. The Sixers had the lead by 4 in the fourth quarter, and then they went 4 of 23 from the field. The Jazz win by 17. Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, you want to see ugliness. Look at this graphic from the tweet from ESPN Stats. Inside the paint. In the paint. Philly 0 of 10 in the fourth quarter. That's how you blow a lead and end up failing to cover a point spread in a game where you're plus 14.5 and you're leading in the fourth quarter. Another really, really tough beat and another bad result for the house.
All right, here we go. Final time is, this is emotional for everybody. It's the final time we do this.
It's not the final time. We got the playoffs. There'll be late week line moves.
Oh, God, not like this. Come on, we run it down. Week 17 line movement. It's now Manuel against Fitzpatrick. Bills, Jets under money.
No surprise. Open 45 down to 42.5, although there was a little bit of an uptick. Late last night, there was a little bit of over money, so I think it's gone as low as it's going to go. But understandably, in a matchup of, I'm going to call Fitzpatrick a backup quarterback, even though he's a starter here, in a matchup of backup quarterbacks, you would expect to see under money, and we've seen it.
3-point move in this one. CG Technology here in Las Vegas. The Ravens now favored, picking most spots, though. Harbaugh saying all the right things. Maybe they send Steve Smith out a winner. No A.J. Green, no Eifert. And the Bengals, it's nothing but Ravens money.
Yeah, and I mean, it opened at 2.5 in most locations. Now we're looking at pick 'em in most locations. CG taking an opinion with that line, and we respect the books that take opinions with your numbers because that gives you variance to bet into. But nothing but Baltimore money over the last 24 hours. And as you mentioned, with some books already moving to Ravens 1, I'm not convinced that the flow of Ravens money is over just yet. We could see more between now and kickoff.
No surprise here. They're betting the Sunday night game over. Expect fireworks with Detroit and Green Bay, and money on the Vikings. That surprises me.
Well, it's the opposite of what we saw earlier in the week. Remember, earlier we talked on, I believe was it the Wednesday show this week. We did the early week line moves, and we were talking about the money coming on the Bears. Minnesota from -6.5 down to -5. All that's been reversed. Now it's back up to 6.5. It's been Minnesota money. The market's not liking some of the comments we're seeing from Chicago about how they're approaching Week 17.
All right.
Especially considering how they approach Week 16.
So what do you? One thought you can go on to Carolina and Tampa in a second, but I want to touch on Atlanta. Atlanta's up to 7.5 at Penny, 7 at other spots too. They play the Saints at home. They win the game. They need to win. They get the bye in the 2 seed if they're able to win this game.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Penny number. With Penny's at 7.5 and the rest of the market's up at 7. You can expect Penny is what I call a leading indicator shop. Pinnacle, one of the most prominent offshore sports books. When Penny starts to move, other books tend to move to match their number. Same thing with Chris. When Penny or Chris are pointing in one direction, or Bookmaker, as the U.S. Facing side of Chris is called, when those two books in particular, they're not the only ones that are leading indicator books, but they're 2 of the more prominent ones. So with the Falcons already up to 7.5 at Penny, I wouldn't hesitate if you like Atlanta. Get on board now. Don't wait.
All right, are you ready? Up next, big game breakdown. We'll start with Washington, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson, the 2 semifinal games. 2 bowl games on Monday morning we'll get to, and Week 17 in the NFL on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard at Teddy_covers. Here we go. Big game breakdown. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Noon Pacific Saturday. College football playoff semifinal number 1. It's the Peach Bowl from Atlanta. Washington against Bama. Bama is 13.5, 53 the total. What a matchup this is going to be. Two of the best coaches in college football. Peterson's been dynamite in this role, 5-0 all time in top 10 matchups. First things first, are you surprised when we've seen a lot of under money here?
I'm not surprised by the under money, and I'm not surprised by the Washington money.
Okay.
Going around town over the course of the last couple of weeks, and you know me, Pauly, what do you do when you're around town? All we do is hang out in sports books and talk to other guys who bet. And there's a lot of love for the Washington Huskies here in Las Vegas. There has been, and there continues to be. Now, some of that has to do with Washington's defense, which was real good this season. And when we talk about the under money, I mean, we are talking about two of the best defenses in college football. But there's also been a fair bit of Washington money. And, of course, when you look at the course of the Husky season, you can understand why there's been all that Washington money. They've been a very strong point spread team and able to beat up on a lot of Pac-12 competition.
Yes, but when they struggle in the first quarter, it becomes a big problem. That happened against Arizona. It happened against USC. And I'm not very concerned about... Now, Browning had a terrific season, and he's a hell of a quarterback. But you get him outside of the pocket and make him move. He was atrocious against USC, and he was awful against Colorado in the Pac-12 title game. Now he's going up against a nasty defense with a great pass rush. That could be an issue right off the bat for Washington and Browning.
Well, he's going up against an NFL defense. I mean, make no mistake about it. Alabama has an NFL defense in college. Every player on this defense, or close to every player, will be playing in the NFL. Many of them are going to be stars in the NFL. I mean, this is a special Alabama defense. And one of the things that defense has done, Pauly, all year long, you know, the mainstream sources are going to give you your basics on this game. You guys don't need us to give you the basics. The reality, when it comes to point spread wise, why is Washington taking the money? Why are the wise guys not interested in Alabama? Well, their stats aren't so pretty. Why are their stats not so pretty? Well, because they keep scoring every week non-offensive touchdowns. What happens when team scores non-offensive touchdowns? Well, the defense is out there more. You know, the opposing offense comes right back on the field. The defense, they're going to give up more points, more yards, more first downs than they would have if they had not scored the non-offensive touchdown. And your own offense doesn't get those yardage numbers or those scoring numbers. So the stats lie consistently for teams like Alabama, teams that are capable. And again, they scored, 13 non-offensive TDs, an average of one a week, just like they did last year. It's not a fluke. It's not an anomaly. It's a defense and special teams that score points consistently. And the markets, they don't like teams like that. They don't respect teams like that because it doesn't. The cheap scores don't show up well in statistical databases.
Hey, listen, we knew the SEC was garbage this year. It was Alabama and the 13 Dwarfs. How concerned are you if you have a Washington ticket that Colorado was embarrassed and Washington State struggled and looked terrible?
None. Not even a little bit. And because this will happen a lot of times. I mean, let me say this in two different ways. I'm into the theory that the Pac-12 wasn't that good this year. So my concern about Washington would be legitimate regardless of what happened to the other teams. But you can't compare one bowl game to the next. You really can't. You can't say, all right, well, this team stunk. I mean, Washington State was flat. They were a rhythm offense that came in out of rhythm, just like they lost week 1 of the regular season. Colorado was a team that overachieved all year. They finally faced a squad with, strong speed and skill, and the same thing happened to them as happened in the Pac-12 championship game. So those two losses don't stand out to me as being a reason not to like Washington. If you don't like Washington, it's because of Jake Browning. I mean, that's your Alabama case, is Jake Browning, despite the big stats, we saw him in the games where he had to step up in class against elite defenses, and he couldn't do it. The Pac-12 not loaded with defenses like Alabama this year. And the scary thing, of course, is that in the game against Colorado, where the running game was working and there were open receivers because the Buffs had to stack guys in the box to stop the run, to see Browning struggle in that game, to me, that's the biggest concern that Washington backers have to have, not that other Pac-12 teams have struggled so far.
You give up 11.8 points per game. You allowed 0 touchdowns in the month of November. It's kind of a home game. You just played on that field where you beat Florida in the SEC title game. And I guess it's not going to be a distraction, or they left them behind with the bus for the second time. But Kiffin taking the Florida Atlantic job. I mean, this offense doesn't get enough credit. What the job Kiffin's been able to do running that fast up-tempo offense with so many weapons.
Sure, and that's Alabama's defense gets a ton of pub, and the quarterback gets a ton of pub. What about the wide receivers?
Yep.
This team might have the best receiving core in the country. Nick Saban has recruited at a level that nobody else in college football is capable of recruiting at, and the Alabama roster shows that. I'll just leave it like that.
All right, game number 2, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Second semifinal, 4 o'clock Pacific, Glendale, Fiesta Bowl. Ohio State, Clemson, Buckeyes 3, 59 the total. You look at this matchup, and Sweeney's been great. This is a tough call here because Urban Meyer, I would put him at the top of the list. You give a coach with a month to prepare. Peterson's on that list too, but Dabo's been great as a dog.
Well, and forget that. Urban Meyer has suffered 5 straight-up defeats at Ohio State since arriving in 2012. One of those came in the Orange Bowl against Clemson.
Yeah.
40-35. That was Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins against Braxton Miller and Carlos Hyde. And the Clemson came out on top in that one. So Swinney's got a history against Meyer with extra time to repair, and a history that was good enough to win the game in straight-up fashion.
I love this Clemson team, and I think Venables, the defensive coordinator, did an excellent job. They lost so many guys on that defense last year, put some guys in the NFL. They still came back in a position to maybe we see a rematch against Alabama. Watson led them. I know he had too many turnovers at times, and they had the escape against NC State. But what do we make of Barrett and this Ohio State? Remember, Ohio State struggled against Northwestern. They were outplayed against Michigan. They were outplayed against Wisconsin. How good are the Buckeyes? They're laying in this game.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise point spread-wise here for me. We're seeing the Big Ten get a lot of respect in the betting markets here in bowl seasons. That isn't always the case. When you talk about Big Ten and the history in bowls of coming up short. You talk about Clemson. Their 50-year seniors at Clemson are 58-9 straight up. They've got bowl wins over Ohio State, LSU, and Oklahoma twice. They hung tough with Alabama in the championship game last year. This is not a team that I'm used to seeing as an underdog against a team like Ohio State. You talked about how good are the Buckeyes and how good, was J.T. Barrett. Clemson for the season, they were very good. They didn't put together a lot of stretches of great 60 minutes worth of football. Neither did Ohio State. And Barrett, when we saw Barrett go to Oklahoma and light up the Sooners early on, we're like, wow, this guy's going to be a Heisman contender. And he wasn't. He didn't end up being anywhere near what we thought he was going to be. And Ohio State ended up losing money for all their backers down the stretch. Where do they go? 2-6 ATS their last 8, and that included a point spread win over Michigan in the finale that they certainly didn't deserve.
No, I believe in the Wisconsin and Michigan games, they led for a combined 10 minutes in both games. Think about that. One more before we break. LiveOddsSportsBookReview.com. Early Monday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific. ABC, Outback Bowl, Iowa, Florida. Florida 3, 40.5 the total. There may not be a bowl team that will look different than the one that walked off the field after the final play of the regular season because Florida was decimated by injury, Teddy.
Oh, they sure were. They were minus a dozen guys on the defense side of the football. And they're still somewhat banged up on defense. There's still a lot of guys listed on the injury report. A lot of questionables and probables and maybes for the Gator defense, but it's certainly going to look better on defense for Florida than it was in that, And remember, think about their brutal end of the season slate. They had to go at LSU, at Florida State, and then Bama on a neutral in a 3-week span. With your defense decimated with injuries, no wonder the Gators looked so lousy. And, of course, they did it. They're without Luke Del Rio. Appleby was hurt. Both QBs healthy for this one. And certainly going to be healthy on the defense side of the football. So when you say Florida is going to look a lot different now than they did at the end of the regular season, as different as any team in college football, I'll agree with that assessment. I really will. I think the Gators will be a lot better than they looked over that ugly stretch to close out the campaign, even though they did get that BS win at LSU.
And Iowa came on at the end of the season as well. The big win against Michigan, played well down the stretch. And remember what they were embarrassed last year in the Rose Bowl. So they want to have a better showing on national television. That was a joke. That thing was 21-0 right away.
Well, this one could be too. The Hawkeyes had one major challenge away from home all year.
Okay.
Remember that game? It was Penn State. It was ugly. I had a Nittany Lion ticket in my pocket that afternoon, and I was happy to have that ticket in my pocket this afternoon. And Iowa, they are a fundamentally sound defensive football team. If you ask Iowa to score points, it's dicey. The running game is pedestrian. The quarterback play is pedestrian. The skill position talent is bottom tier. Kirk Ferentz can coach his X's and O's, but when it comes to elite level talent that can score touchdowns against a strong SEC defense, Iowa doesn't have a whole lot of players of that caliber.
All right, we're going overtime again. The Cotton Bowl, Western Michigan and Wisconsin, and then to the NFL, Week 17. Redskins win, they're in. It's Sunday night. The winner wins the division, Green Bay and Detroit, coming up on SportsBit and the play of the day. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, wrapping it up on SportsBit Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. Big game breakdown continues. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Cotton Bowl, Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Western Michigan against Wisconsin. The Badgers are 8, 52.5 the total. What a turnaround by the Broncos and the job P.J. Fleck did. When he took over, they went 1-11 his first season. Now they have a chance to go 14-0 and an historic season row the boat. I can't believe he's still there.
Well, that's the whole thing. The initial handicap for my initial thought process of this game, what is the story with Western Michigan once P.J. Fleck leaves? Are they going to have the right hire? Are they going to have the right interim coach? Is this team going to be primed to do something? But he hasn't gone anywhere, which means all hands on deck. And when you talk about Western Michigan, compared to most of these teams that come out of the group of five, they're different. Why? Because they can hang in terms of skill position talent. The quarterback, Zach Terrell, more than 3,300 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions all year. He's probably better than the Wisconsin QB tandem. Corey Davis might well be the best wide receiver on the field. The Franklin Bogan RB combination, it doesn't give away all that much to what Wisconsin brings to the table with Corey Clement and company. So when it comes to skill position talent, most teams in Western Michigan's class can't match what Western Michigan brings to the table. And Western Michigan, they have as much or more than Wisconsin does.
Hey, I'll agree with you there. Also, the handicap comes down to, is Wisconsin motivated? Do they want to be there? This team's playing for the Big Ten title game. They blow a huge lead against Penn State. They win that game. They're thinking, hey, maybe we can get in the playoff. Now they're playing Western Michigan.
Yeah, no argument here. And, of course, we're going to see, and we've already seen a little bit of Badgers money. Teams like Western Michigan don't tend to get a lot of market respect when it comes to post-New Year's Day bowls. And, of course, you have to be concerned with the Broncos' ability to stop Wisconsin from ground and pound, because the Badgers will wear you down. Western Michigan not huge in the trenches on the defense side of the football. And if Wisconsin's going to win and cover, that's likely the way they're going to do it. But this Broncos team is legitimately special. I'm not stepping in front of them when it comes to early start action on Monday.
All right, NFL now, Week 17, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Not a lot going on. I mean, we know all 6 teams in the AFC. They're just playing for seeding. NFC, it's pretty much a done deal too. It's Sunday night, NBC, Sunday night, Green Bay and Detroit, Packers 3, minus $1.25, 49.5 the total. Who handles the pressure better? Winner wins the division. If the Redskins win against the Giants earlier in the day, the loser's out. But if the game ends in a tie, both advance. I would love to see that. The game goes to overtime. Both teams take a knee and get the hell out of there. We're both in it. Green Bay on a 5-0 straight-up run and 4-1 ATS. They only lost. They were up 17 against the Bears and stopped playing. But they turned the defense around a little bit. Much improved. And Rodgers, again, that we're going to run the table. Well, they're 1 win away from doing that, Teddy, and he has been unbelievable. Last week against Minnesota, 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing.
Yeah, okay, let's go through the scenario very clearly. If the Redskins have won the game earlier in the day, the loser is out. If the game ends in a tie, both teams advance. But remember, division title's on the line here. So if they get to OT, no one's saying, oh, well, let's take a knee and go in. Someone's going to get home field. Someone's going to get a first-round game at home. Someone's going to get a first-round game on the road. And that's enough to play for in overtime. If the Redskins have lost the game, both the winner of this and the loser in the playoffs, they're just playing for the right to host a playoff game.
Wasn't I clear?
I don't know.
Was I too fast? I was excited. It's a great scenario. I see both teams in with a tie. I got excited. Yes. Well, but, hey, Teddy, but Jordy Nelson, unbelievable. I mean, what he was struggling early on, and Rodgers being able to find him has really turned around this season.
Well, sure. I mean, he's reinvented himself as a slot receiver. In terms of yards per catch, he's down from where he's been the last couple of years. But he still has 91 catches and 14 touchdowns. His career high is 15. And you talk about that great run they're on, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 ATS. The only loss against the spread during this entire span came by 1.5 points in a game they led by 17 against the Bears at Soldier Field. So they've been in position to cover every one of these numbers. And Nelson and Rodgers now get to take on a Lions pass defense that rates dead last, number 32 from Pro Football Outsiders, allowing close to 73% completions, 29 touchdown passes, only 25 sacks. Although one good news for Detroit in this contest is that Darius Slay, their Pro Bowl caliber, basically he was the best player on the defense this year. He didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he's Pro Bowl caliber, I'm going to call him. I thought it was a legit snub. Anyhow, he's back in practice this week after missing the last couple of ball games.
You remember the movie Donnie Brasco? The Lions are Fugazi. They've trailed in the fourth quarter of every game but one. You saw what happened Monday night. Dallas had nothing to play for. Detroit still got blown out in that one. And Stafford, 4 wins in his career. 4. He played 8 years. 4 wins in his career against teams that finished the season with a winning record. More on this game coming up. Last one, Giants, Redskins. Redskins, 7.5, 45.5 the total. Redskins playing a ton of overs lately. Redskins win, they're in. As we talked about, just don't get the tie on Sunday night. Here's McAdoo about, he said, are you going to try to win the game? He said, we're going to win the game. But how long are you going to play the starters? He wouldn't answer the question. I mean, this is a game I can't get involved with because I'm not laying that with the Redskins. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the third quarter they pull everybody, the Giants.
Well, that's the question. If they play, and it looks up from what McAdoo's saying that this line is wrong. But on the other hand, if they play well early, McAdoo might back off anyway. If they play lousy early, McAdoo might back off. It is a game that may offer some great in-game opportunities, some first-half opportunities. And that, Giants' first half to me makes a whole lot of sense. McAdoo's quote, "We're going to play our players and go win the ball game. That's what we do for a living. We only have 53 players on our roster. It's tough to go through a game if you rest your starters. We think we have 53 starters. Everyone plays a role on the team. And you go in, you have an opportunity to play this week. We have to win the game this week." There was another sequence asking whether Eli Manning was going to play and how long. His quote, "Eli is going to play the game, yes. But what about the whole game? Eli is going to play the ball game, yes."
What would you
Landon
do?
Collins.
Hey, what would you do? Remember, they're locked into the 5 seed.
If you don't see this, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. That's why I'm not an NFL football coach. When it comes to resting players versus going all out in Week 17, if you have a bye the following week, you go all out Week 17. You don't stop for a minute. If you don't have a bye the following week, and the Giants don't, there's certainly an argument that can be made that it's more important to getting everyone healthy than it is in going into the postseason with momentum.
Can you believe this? If Kirk Cousins throws for 370 yards, he'll be the 6th quarterback in NFL history to throw for 5,000 yards in a season. You're talking about Brady, Breeze, Marino, Manning. Someone's going to give that guy a stupid contract next year, and they're going to regret it like Flacco. But in any event, he's putting up video game numbers in that one. All right, money time, play of the day. Give me the betting number. I didn't write it down. Damn it, I'm sorry.
Oh, my God. You don't have the betting number written down?
I didn't write the betting number down.
Now, understand, normally there's not a lot of debate as to what we're going to use for play of the day. Today, Pauly put his foot down.
Yeah.
He's like, we're using this, and that's that. Betting number
I got it,
309.
Thank you. Betting number 309. We're 4-0 when we've had the Packers lately with this run. This is a horrible spot. Oh, the division's on the line. Look what happened here. Green Bay, we're laying the 3 with Green Bay. Packers played Saturday afternoon on Christmas Eve. A lot of rest. Lions played Monday night on the road, got in early Tuesday morning. They got to come out with the Sunday night game here. And we know about Stafford's resume. And Green Bay has been on fire. They know what's on the line. They're looking to close with a 6-game winning streak. And that Detroit defense, I told you that too, right? Remember I ran that down on last week's show? They're frauds. Look at the quarterbacks they faced lately. Rodgers carves them up. Lay the 3 with Green Bay Sunday night, betting number 309. 42-24 on the football season. We gave out LSU Saturday morning earlier in the week. Packers get it done and win the division. Oh, there we go. That was a fun show.
Whew, that was a tough week, man. I'm exhausted. This was a crazy week for sports bettors, and that's the way it is.
Yes.
Always between Christmas and New Year's when you got 4 major sports all going at the same time. Whew. Next week, we'll get to recap it all and start talking about the NFL playoffs.
Happy New Year. Well, when we're back Monday, we know who's in the championship game, and we know who's meeting in the NFL playoffs and all the matchups, and we'll recap Week 17. Can't wait. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends. Sportsbet, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com. Have a good weekend.